There are places in this world that whisper of forgotten eras, locales where the very ground beneath our feet seems to hum with an unspoken history. Structures rise from the earth, or lie buried beneath it, defying our neat timelines, challenging every assumption we hold about human progress. How were they built with tools that shouldn't have been capable? Who crafted these impossibly massive stones, moving them with technology we can only imagine? What knowledge, what civilizations, what stories have slipped through the cracks of recorded time, leaving only these silent, monumental questions behind? So find a comfortable place, let your thoughts drift, and join us as we journey into the enigmatic tapestry of humanity's deepest past, seeking the echoes of a forgotten civilization that may have shaped the very foundations of our world. In the sun-baked plains of southeastern Turkey, an extraordinary secret lay buried for millennia, waiting for a shepherd's accidental discovery in the mid-1990s. What emerged from the soil was not merely an ancient settlement, but something far more profound. Göbekli Tepe. This isn't just old, it's impossibly old. Dating back approximately 11,600 years to the pre-pottery Neolithic A period, it predates the Egyptian pyramids by more than 7 millennia. Imagine that for a moment. 7,000 years before the pharaohs ruled, before the first Sumerian city-states rose, before the very invention of writing, a monumental complex of carved stone pillars was erected here. Göbekli Tepe consists of a series of vast, circular enclosures, some reaching up to 60 feet in diameter, each containing towering T-shaped limestone pillars. These pillars, some weighing as much as 20 tons, the equivalent of 2 large African elephants, are not crude boulders. They are meticulously shaped and adorned with intricate three-dimensional carvings of animals, foxes, snakes, wild boars, gazelles, scorpions, and various predatory birds. These aren't simple etchings. They are works of sophisticated art, embodying a complex symbolic language lost to us now. The sheer scale of the construction, the precise positioning of these behemoth stones, the artistry of the carvings, and the deliberate burial of the entire site after centuries of use all point to an undertaking of immense significance, a truly baffling achievement for its time. For decades, the mainstream academic narrative of human civilization has followed a clear, linear path. It posits that humanity's journey from nomadic hunter-gatherers to settled urban dwellers began with the advent of agriculture. Once humans learned to cultivate crops and domesticate animals, they could produce a food surplus. This surplus allowed for permanent settlements, which then grew into villages, leading to population density, specialization of labor, social hierarchies, and eventually the construction of monumental architecture and the rise of complex societies, what we call civilization. In this model, hunter-gatherers were understood to be small, mobile groups constantly moving in search of food, with limited capacity for large-scale coordinated efforts or the development of complex social structures. Their tools were simple, their existence a constant struggle for subsistence. The idea that such groups could conceive of, let alone build, something like Göbekli Tepe was considered utterly out of the question. But there's a profound problem with this established timeline, a crucial challenge presented by the very existence of Göbekli Tepe. The site shows no evidence of agriculture, no domesticated crops, no domesticated animals beyond wild boars and gazelles being hunted. There are no signs of permanent residential structures, no houses, no hearths, nothing to suggest a settled population lived there year-round. All the evidence points to it being built and maintained by communities that were, by definition, hunter-gatherers. The sheer effort involved in quarrying, shaping, transporting, and erecting these multi-ton pillars, some from a quarry more than a quarter of a mile away, would have required an immense, sustained, and highly organized labor force. How could nomadic groups without a food surplus to support a large non-foraging population possibly coordinate such a monumental construction project? Who organized the thousands of individuals providing them with food and water for months? perhaps years, of labor. And perhaps most intriguingly, why? Why would people living a subsistence lifestyle dedicate such an enormous amount of time and energy to building elaborate temples, only to intentionally bury them centuries later? The traditional sequence of agriculture leading to civilization simply does not fit here. Göbekli Tepe turns the accepted order upside down. This profound anomaly has naturally sparked a wide array of alternative theories, each attempting to grapple with the site's challenging implications. Some researchers believe that Göbekli Tepe forces us to dramatically reevaluate our understanding of early hunter-gatherer societies. Could it be that these groups were far more sophisticated, socially complex, and capable of abstract thought and large-scale organization than previously imagined? Perhaps the old definition of hunter-gatherer is simply too narrow, failing to encompass the full spectrum of human adaptation and ingenuity that existed before the dawn of agriculture. This theory suggests that the Neolithic revolution wasn't a sudden leap, but a gradual continuum, with Göbekli Tepe representing a pinnacle of pre-agricultural, cultural, and social development. Other theories suggest a radical reversal of the traditional narrative. What if the monumental structures, the temples, came first and then led to agriculture? Could the need to feed a large, organized workforce gathered for the purpose of building and maintaining these sacred sites have been the driving force behind the domestication of plants and animals? The necessity of providing a stable food source for hundreds or even thousands of laborers might have compelled these early communities to experiment with cultivation, eventually leading to the invention of agriculture. In this view, shared ideology and ritual, rather than practical survival, were the catalysts for civilization, with the temple preceding the city. This would mean that spiritual needs, rather than purely economic ones, provided the impetus for humanity's most transformative shift. More speculative ideas venture further, proposing that Göbekli Tepe points to an unprecedented level of social organization, possibly even a form of proto-civilization. This wouldn't be a civilization in the traditional sense with cities and writing, but rather a sophisticated hierarchical society united by a powerful, shared religious or ideological belief system. Who were the architects, the spiritual leaders, the visionaries who commanded such vast resources and human effort? The site hints at specialized knowledge, perhaps even an early form of priesthood or ruling elite, a concept traditionally associated with agricultural societies. Could it be that these early forms of social stratification and specialized roles merged not from the abundance of farmed food, but from the immense communal effort required for monumental construction? And then there are theories that push the boundaries of historical inquiry even further. What if Göbekli Tepe is not merely an isolated marvel, but a surviving echo, a beacon from an even older, almost entirely forgotten civilization? Some suggest it could be a remnant or re-establishment of sophisticated knowledge from a culture that flourished during the preceding Younger Dryas period, a time of dramatic climate change and cataclysm that ended around 9700 BC. Could the builders of Göbekli Tepe have inherited knowledge, or even direct lineage, from a lost, advanced civilization that was largely wiped out by these global catastrophes? A civilization whose existence is now relegated to myth and legend? This perspective posits that humanity's advanced capabilities extend far deeper into the past than we currently acknowledge, suggesting a more cyclical rather than linear progression of human achievement, with periods of advancement followed by near-total collapse and societal amnesia. As we ponder the mysteries of Göbekli Tepe, a fundamental question emerges, echoing through the millennia. If hunter-gatherers, or a proto-civilization that predates agriculture, had the extraordinary capacity for such sophisticated social organization, monumental architecture, and complex symbolic expression, what else were they capable of? What does this ancient site truly reveal about the origins of civilization itself and the very definition of civilization as we understand it? Could this enigmatic place be a tangible whisper of a forgotten age, where advanced human ingenuity, social cohesion, and monumental architecture emerged not from the surplus of agriculture, but from a deeper, perhaps spiritual human impulse, forever altering our perception of humanity's earliest story? Our journey through the forgotten whispers of history compels us to reconsider not just when complex societies emerged, but where and how. If the very roots of monumental architecture and social organization stretch back further than we once dared imagine, then perhaps the widely accepted cradle of civilization, the birthplace of the first true cities, also needs a closer, more inquisitive look. For generations, the consensus has pointed firmly to Mesopotamia, and specifically to the fertile crescent region often referred to as Sumer. Here, between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, the story goes, human ingenuity blossomed into an unprecedented urban landscape. Sites like Uruk, Eridu, and Ur stand as monumental testaments to what is widely celebrated as the birth of urbanism. These ancient cities, some dating back to the late 5th and early 4th millennia BCE, exhibit all the hallmarks of a sophisticated civilization: massive temple complexes, intricate irrigation systems, the earliest forms of writing, a complex bureaucracy, and a highly stratified society. We envision bustling markets, specialized artisans, and a population density that truly set them apart from the villages that preceded them. The sheer scale and complexity of these early Sumerian city-states have long been held up as the gold standard, the undeniable benchmark against which all other claims to first city status are measured. The mainstream theory posits a clear and logical progression for this urban revolution. Abundant agricultural surpluses facilitated by the fertile soil and innovative irrigation techniques of the Mesopotamian plain led to a stable food supply. This stability, in turn, allowed for population growth and a sedentary lifestyle, freeing a portion of the populace from constant food production. With this newfound leisure and specialization, crafts emerged, trade networks expanded, and the need for centralized administration and public works grew. Temples became focal points, drawing communities together and providing a structure for governance and belief. Over centuries, these factors intertwined, culminating in the complex social, economic, and political systems that defined the Sumerian city. It's a compelling narrative, one that has been taught for generations, painting a picture of humanity's triumphant ascent from scattered settlements to organized urban life, with Mesopotamia as its undisputed crucible. But what if this narrative, while undeniably rich and significant, isn't the whole story? What if the very definition of a city, as we've applied it through the lens of Sumerian achievements, has inadvertently narrowed our search, causing us to overlook other, equally valid, or perhaps even earlier, expressions of urban living? While Sumerian cities represent a fully developed, perhaps even mature, form of urbanism, the abruptness of their emergence, seemingly from a largely agricultural backdrop, raises an intriguing question. Where are the immediate precursors? The fully formed city-states of Sumer appear almost as if sprung into existence, with little in the way of a clear evolutionary chain leading directly to their sophisticated design. Could it be that the concept of city itself, burdened by modern academic criteria, is too rigid, too limited, to encompass the full spectrum of early human aggregation and organized living? Some researchers believe that the spark of urbanism wasn't solely a direct result of agricultural surplus and the administrative needs that followed. They suggest that other powerful forces might have driven communities to coalesce into large, dense settlements, perhaps long before the agricultural revolution was fully consolidated or before the emergence of centralized kingship. Building on the evidence we saw earlier of monumental construction and complex social organization among pre-agricultural communities, it's not unreasonable to consider that the human impulse for large-scale gathering, for shared cultural or ceremonial purposes, could have predated the need for complex economic administration. Could the aggregation around sacred sites, or the collaborative effort required for grand artistic or architectural endeavors have sown the seeds for permanent, dense settlements that then gradually adapted to agricultural lifestyles rather than the other way around. The possibility exists that multiple paths to urbanism were explored, with the Sumerian model representing just one highly successful trajectory. What if the earliest forms of urban living were driven by different social dynamics, different priorities, and thus manifested in forms that don't neatly fit our preconceived notions of what a city must look like? If Sumerian cities represent an advanced, consolidated stage of urban development, then where were the earlier, perhaps less conventionally, urban experiments? Could it be that our very definition of a city, shaped so heavily by the Mesopotamian model, has made us blind to equally complex yet distinctly different forms of early human aggregation? This brings us to a remarkable site in central Anatolia, modern-day Turkey, a place that dramatically challenges our comfortable categories. Çatalhöyük, buried beneath layers of earth, this sprawling Neolithic settlement is an anomaly. Flourishing for nearly 2 millennia, from around 7500 BCE to 5700 BCE, it housed thousands of people, making it one of the largest and most complex settlements of its time. Imagine a dense honeycomb of mud brick houses built directly next to each other without streets or pathways. Inhabitants moved across rooftops, descending into their homes through openings in the ceiling. The dead were often buried beneath the floors of these very same houses, maintaining a profound connection to the domestic space. It was a place of extraordinary artistic expression, with elaborate murals and sculptures adorning interior walls, hinting at a rich, symbolic and spiritual life. Its sheer scale and the duration of its occupation are undeniably impressive, existing millennia before the grand cities of Sumer began to rise. The mainstream interpretation often categorizes Çatalhöyük as a very large village or a proto-city, acknowledging its size and complexity but hesitant to bestow upon it the full title of city. Scholars point to the apparent lack of monumental public buildings, the absence of clear social stratification in burials, and the decentralized nature of its economy as reasons to distinguish it from the later Sumerian model. Its unique architectural style, with houses entered from the roof, is seen as a cultural adaptation for communal living, perhaps a defensive measure, but not necessarily indicative of a truly urban, centrally planned environment. It is an extraordinary settlement, certainly, an important window into Neolithic life, but one that largely stands apart, an interesting outlier in the story of urban development. But this categorization glosses over the profound implications of Çatalhöyük's existence. For nearly 2,000 years, a community of thousands, perhaps up to 10,000 at its peak, lived in this extraordinarily dense and complex settlement. They sustained themselves not through centralized administration and clear hierarchies, but through what appears to be a highly organized yet surprisingly egalitarian communal structure. Craft specialization was evident, trade networks stretched far, and a vibrant artistic and spiritual life thrived. If it wasn't a city, what was it? And why does its existence, so ancient and so unique, force us to confront the very definitions we apply to early urbanism? Its prolonged success, without the traditional trappings of a ruling class or a monumental temple complex dominating its center, suggests an alternative blueprint for large-scale human aggregation, one that challenges the notion of a singular, linear path to urbanism. Some archaeologists argue passionately that Çatalhöyük should be considered a city, or at least a powerful example of a distinct pathway to urban life. They contend that our current criteria for cityness are often derived retrospectively from the Sumerian and later classical models, which may not apply universally. What if a city doesn't require a king or a grand temple in the center? What if its urban character is defined by its density, its long-term stability, its communal organization, and its complex symbolic life, rather than by a specific type of governance or architecture? Could Çatalhöyük represent a truly democratic, or at least highly communal, form of urbanism, where social cohesion was maintained not through top-down power structures, but through shared cultural practices and a collective sense of identity? If so, it would compel us to broaden our understanding of what a first city could be, suggesting that urbanism is a multifaceted phenomenon with diverse origins and manifestations. If Çatalhöyük represents a successful, long-lasting urban experiment without the centralized hierarchies and monumental public structures we often associate with the cradle, how many other such forgotten proto-cities might lie hidden beneath the dust of ages, waiting to reshape our understanding of humanity's urban beginnings? This brings us to the very heart of the matter, redefining the first city itself. The more we unearth sites like Çatalhöyük, and the more we reconsider the implications of earlier communal gathering as seen in sites that challenged our hunter-gatherer assumptions, the more elusive the singular concept of the first city becomes. The traditional quest for a single, definitive origin point for urbanism seems increasingly inadequate. The mainstream view, as we've discussed, typically defines a city by a combination of criteria: a large, dense population, monumental public architecture, evidence of social stratification and specialized labor, a complex economic system often involving trade, and centralized administration, sometimes including writing systems. Sumerian cities, with their ziggurats, scribes, kings, and bustling economies, are seen as the epitome of this definition, making them the standard-bearers for urban origins. This set of criteria has served as a powerful analytical tool, guiding archaeological research for decades. But there's a problem with this neatly packaged explanation. These criteria, while useful, are largely descriptive of the outcome of urbanism in a specific cultural context, primarily Mesopotamia. What if the process of becoming urban, the journey to aggregation and complexity, could take many different forms, some of which might not fit all these checkboxes? What if, by adhering too strictly to these Mesopotamian-derived metrics, we've inadvertently overlooked or downplayed equally significant yet structurally different early urban experiments? We are, in essence, searching for the reflection of a specific image, when the reality might be a kaleidoscope of possibilities. This opens the door to a series of speculative and intriguing alternative theories. Could it be that urbanism didn't have a single, monolithic origin point but rather emerged independently, and perhaps even simultaneously, in multiple locations around the world, each driven by unique cultural, environmental, and social forces? Some researchers suggest that the pull of a sacred site, much like the one we explored in the previous act, could have been a powerful initial force, drawing disparate groups together for seasonal rituals or shared cultural endeavors. This aggregation over time might have fostered permanent settlement, eventually leading to urbanism, with economic specialization and agriculture adapting to the existing density, rather than being the sole cause of it. This would represent a non-agricultural, or at least ritual-driven, path to urban development. Other theories suggest that early urban centers might have been primarily cultural or trade hubs, where the exchange of goods, ideas, and people spurred population growth and the need for greater organization. Even without a dominant political hierarchy or monumental public works in the traditional sense, what if cityness is not a binary state, but a spectrum, with different societies developing varying degrees of urban characteristics based on their specific needs and values? We might be looking for a fully formed tree when we should also be recognizing the diverse saplings that preceded it, each with the potential to grow in unique ways. The very notion of the first city might be a conceptual trap, preventing us from appreciating the rich tapestry of human ingenuity in creating complex, large-scale communities. If urbanism could arise from such diverse impulses and take such varied forms, what other forgotten pathways to civilization might lie hidden beneath the dust of ages, waiting to challenge our most fundamental assumptions about progress and human ingenuity, and rewrite the story of humanity's earliest collective lives? Our understanding of humanity's true origins and the incredible diversity of its early expressions continues to expand, inviting us to delve deeper into the layers of what was once considered settled history. The known story of civilization suggests a gradual ascent, a slow dawning of knowledge and capability after the last great ice sheets retreated. But what if the tale we tell ourselves is incomplete? What if echoes of a deeper past, a more profound understanding, lie not only in the dust of forgotten mounds, but beneath the very waves that shape our continents, or deep within the earth itself? In the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean, off the coast of Yonaguni Island in Japan, a structure lies submerged, an impossibly massive formation that calls into question everything we think we know about ancient human capabilities. Discovered by a local diver, it appears as a colossal stepped pyramid carved from bedrock, stretching down to depths of over 100 feet. Terraces, perfectly straight lines, 90-degree angles, and what seem to be carved steps and pillars give it the eerie appearance of a forgotten monument. Imagine colossal stone platforms, sharp corners, and deep trenches, all seemingly crafted with an impossible precision. Some parts even appear to form a distinctive, face-like feature, eerily reminiscent of a massive sphinx, gazing out into the perpetual twilight of the deep. It is a silent, immovable enigma, sitting patiently on the ocean floor, challenging our perceptions of time and human achievement. The conventional explanation posits that the Yonaguni monument is a natural geological formation. Geologists suggest that millennia of seismic activity combined with erosion from ocean currents could have sculpted the sandstone into these uncanny, rectilinear shapes. They argue that the parallel grooves and angular features are merely the result of natural fracturing along bedding planes and joints in the rock, and that the apparent staircases are just natural step-like formations. The argument is made that nature, given enough time and the right conditions, can create truly extraordinary resemblances to man-made structures. But there's a persistent problem with this entirely natural explanation. The sheer regularity of the Yonaguni structure, its consistent 90-degree angles, its perfectly flat surfaces, and the deliberate-looking steps and terraces seem to defy the random artistry of nature. While nature can create straight lines and angles, the overall architectural coherence, the apparent symmetry, and the scale of this monolithic formation stretch the boundaries of coincidence. Experienced divers and geologists who have studied the site up close have pointed out what appear to be chisel marks, deliberate excavations and features that simply do not occur naturally, such as perfectly carved right angles within internal structures and deliberate-looking drainage channels. If it were solely natural, one might expect a more chaotic, less patterned erosion. Could it be, as some researchers believe, the remnant of a lost civilization, one that flourished thousands of years ago when sea levels were significantly lower during the last ice age? Theories suggest that the monument could have been carved when it was above water, perhaps as a coastal city or a ceremonial site, only to be submerged as the ice melted and the oceans rose. What if the people who built this structure possessed a sophisticated understanding of engineering and stone carving, capabilities far beyond what mainstream archaeology attributes to cultures of that distant epoch? Some speculate that it could even be part of a larger, now entirely submerged city, a silent sentinel to a forgotten world. The very existence of such a structure, if proven to be man-made, would require a radical re-evaluation of the timeline for complex civilization, pushing it back many thousands of years further than conventionally accepted. If a civilization thousands of years ago had the capability to quarry, shape, and position stones with such precision, what else were they capable of creating? What secrets do these silent submerged monuments hold about the history of human ingenuity hidden from us by the relentless embrace of the ocean? Yonaguni, astonishing as it is, may not be an isolated anomaly. Across the globe, scattered like forgotten pearls, are other submerged ancient structures that whisper of advanced engineering and a forgotten past beneath the waves. The Bimini Road, a perplexing underwater stone formation off the coast of North Bimini in the Bahamas, appears as a perfectly straight paved road made of massive, precisely laid limestone blocks. Off the coast of Cuba, sonar scans have revealed geometric underwater structures that resemble cities, complete with pyramids and buildings at depths of over 2,000 feet. In the Gulf of Cambay, off the coast of India, the legendary city of Dwarka is believed by some to have been discovered, with tantalizing evidence of ancient, submerged ruins suggesting an advanced port city swallowed by the sea. Mainstream archaeology often attributes these submerged phenomena to natural geological processes, perhaps exacerbated by unusual tectonic activity or localized erosion. The Bimini Road, for instance, is largely considered a natural beach rock formation, where sediments solidify into regular shapes that can appear man-made. The deep-sea anomalies off Cuba are often dismissed as sonar artifacts or misinterpreted geological features, while sites like Dwarka are framed as coastal settlements from a more recent historical period that succumbed to localized floods or gradual subsidence. Yet, the consistent narrative woven by these diverse submerged sites presents a compelling challenge to the purely natural explanation. The sheer number of locations, the recurring geometric precision, and the often colossal scale of the stones involved push the limits of what random geological forces can achieve. Many of these structures are found at depths consistent with global sea levels at the end of the last glacial maximum, suggesting they were built at a time when vast tracts of land now submerged were exposed. Could it be that these aren't isolated incidents, but rather fragments of a global tapestry, the drowned remains of sophisticated coastal civilizations that thrived during the Ice Age? Some researchers believe these sites offer tantalizing evidence of extensive human activity during the Younger Dryas period, a time when humanity was supposedly still comprised of nomadic hunter-gatherers. The consistent appearance of monumental architecture, often with clear architectural intent and complex design, suggests cultures with advanced building techniques and social organization. These alternative theories propose that humanity once possessed a widespread understanding of engineering that allowed them to build structures capable of withstanding millennia of oceanic erosion. Perhaps these were not just coastal settlements, but strategic outposts or even parts of an interconnected maritime network, long before conventional history suggests such global connectivity was possible. What untold stories lie hidden beneath the waves, waiting for us to uncover them? What forgotten maps of human civilization might be drawn if we could truly decipher the secrets held by these watery graves? If the oceans truly harbor the remnants of advanced societies, then our understanding of ancient human history is incomplete, missing an entire chapter of monumental scale. While some secrets lie beneath the ocean, others are buried deep beneath the Earth's surface, creating a world carved out of solid rock. In the heart of Cappadocia, Turkey, a geological wonderland of fairy chimneys and ancient caves, lies Derinkuyu, an impossibly vast subterranean city that plunges more than 250 feet into the earth. This multi-level marvel is a labyrinth of tunnels, chambers, and passages capable of housing tens of thousands of people along with their livestock for extended periods. Imagine kitchens, stables, churches, schools, wine presses, and even cemeteries, all carved meticulously into the soft volcanic rock, interconnected by a sophisticated network of stairways and passages, guarded by massive circular stone doors designed to seal off sections from invaders. It is a staggering testament to human ingenuity and perseverance. The mainstream historical explanation attributes the construction of Derinkuyu primarily to early Christians, fleeing persecution from the Romans and, later, from Arab raiders. It is believed that they began carving out these underground refugees around the 8th century BCE, expanding them over centuries, with the Byzantine era seeing the most significant developments. The idea is that these resourceful communities facing external threats gradually excavated and extended these networks, creating a safe haven beneath the surface. But the sheer scale of the excavation, the remarkable architectural planning, and the advanced engineering required for Derinkuyu pose profound questions that challenge the conventional narrative. The city boasts an incredibly complex and efficient ventilation system, comprising over 15,000 shafts, some reaching the surface, ensuring fresh air flowed even to the lowest levels. A feat of engineering that baffles modern experts, especially when considering the primitive tools supposedly available at the time. The massive rolling stone doors, some weighing over 1,000 pounds, could be opened and closed only from the inside, showcasing a sophisticated defensive strategy. Furthermore, archaeological evidence suggests some parts of Derinkuyu are far older than the Christian presence, with some dating back to the Hittite period, pushing its origins back by millennia. How could people with basic bronze or iron tools excavate such an enormous volume of rock with such precision and create such an intricate infrastructure? Alternative theories propose that Derinkuyu was built by a much older, technologically advanced civilization, one with engineering capabilities we are only beginning to comprehend. Some suggest it was constructed as a long-term refuge during a major cataclysmic event, perhaps a period of intense surface radiation, a devastating cosmic impact or extreme climate change, which forced entire populations to seek shelter underground for generations. Could it be that this subterranean metropolis represents a response to a forgotten global catastrophe, a testament to humanity's capacity to adapt and survive in the face of unimaginable adversity? The meticulous planning and advanced understanding of geology and air circulation required for such an endeavor hint at a level of knowledge that far surpasses what is typically attributed to ancient societies, forcing us to consider a lineage of builders far more capable than previously imagined. If Derinkuyu was indeed built by an unknown, earlier civilization, what incredible pressures compelled them to build such a complex world beneath the earth? And how did they accomplish such a monumental feat of engineering, creating a thriving society hidden from the dangers of the surface world? The colossal undertaking of Derinkuyu, carving entire cities out of rock, is just one example of a recurring theme of advanced engineering anomalies found in ancient sites across the globe. We see impossible precision in stone cutting, the movement of impossibly massive stones, and sophisticated structural planning that consistently defy the known capabilities of their supposed builders. While we have explored the monumental achievements of sites like Göbekli Tepe, these subterranean and submerged wonders introduce a new dimension to this mystery. Consider the precise, smooth-walled chambers and long, deep tunnels within Derinkuyu that show no clear signs of crude chiseling, suggesting either an immense workforce over an impossibly long time or perhaps a technology that made stone work as easily as clay. The mainstream scientific consensus attributes these achievements to ingenious manual labor, simple tools, and a profound understanding of mechanics through trial and error. Even if the methods are not always fully understood, it is believed that given enough time, resources, and human willpower, almost any feat of ancient engineering could be accomplished through brute force and clever leveraging. But the persistent questions surrounding the apparent lack of consistent tool marks, the baffling level of precision often found on materials like granite and basalt, and the sheer scale of the undertakings continue to perplex modern engineers and stone masons. Modern attempts to replicate some of these ancient feats often require advanced heavy machinery, laser precision, and technologies that simply did not exist in the ancient world. The consistency of these anomalies across continents and disparate cultures points to something more than isolated acts of ingenuity. The idea that an entire city like Derinkuyu could be excavated using mere hand tools seems almost beyond comprehension for its size and complexity. The perfectly carved angles and smooth finishes within Yonaguni also defy easy explanation by natural erosion or primitive tools. What if some of these ancient peoples possessed a lost technology, a profound understanding of acoustics or vibratory frequencies that could soften or manipulate stone? Some speculative theories suggest forgotten methods of levitation or sound-based stone cutting, allowing for effortless movement and shaping of colossal blocks. Could there have been a universal, underlying knowledge of physics or material science, shared by cultures whose histories are now lost to us? A profound insight into the very properties of matter? Such ideas, while speculative, attempt to bridge the gap between observed evidence and our current understanding of ancient human capabilities. Could the recurring appearance of impossible engineering, from the depths of the ocean to the heart of the earth, hint at a shared, forgotten technology, or a profound understanding of natural forces that humanity once possessed and then tragically lost? The cumulative weight of these discoveries, the submerged monuments, the vast subterranean cities, and the persistent anomalies in ancient engineering, all point towards a revolutionary concept. Significant and advanced human activity existed before the end of the last ice age. Mainstream historical narratives tell us that complex civilization, with its monumental architecture, large settlements and structured societies, only truly began to emerge after the Younger Dryas period, roughly 12,000 years ago, as the ice retreated and agriculture spurred sedentary living. Prior to this, humanity is largely depicted as nomadic hunter-gatherer bands, possessing limited organizational and construction capabilities, yet the structures found submerged at depths consistent with pre-glacial sea levels, like Yonaguni, directly challenge this timeline. If these meticulously crafted sites are indeed artificial, they demand a radical re-evaluation of when and where complex human societies emerged. Coupled with sites on land like Göbekli Tepe, which we have explored previously, these underwater cities suggest that highly organized, monument-building cultures were thriving many millennia earlier than conventionally accepted. The evidence implies a global presence of sophisticated human groups at a time when vast amounts of land now underwater were exposed and hospitable, connecting continents in ways we can barely imagine today. Alternative historical perspectives propose that a highly advanced, perhaps even global, civilization flourished during the last glacial maximum. These people, adapted to the changing environments of the Ice Age, built enduring structures that have largely been consumed by the subsequent rise in sea levels. The rapid melting of the ice sheets, which caused oceans to rise by hundreds of feet, would have submerged vast swathes of coastal land, effectively erasing evidence of these civilizations from the historical record. This theory posits that humanity experienced a golden age or an advanced period long before recorded history, a time of profound knowledge and capability that was largely wiped out by global cataclysms, leaving only scattered enigmatic remnants. Such a narrative would not only alter our understanding of human prehistory, but suggest a continuity of sophisticated knowledge stretching back into a distant, almost unimaginable past. If advanced societies flourished on lands now lost beneath the waves for 12 millennia or more, what knowledge did they hold? What understanding of the world, of engineering, of their place in the cosmos, did these pre-glacial people possess? And what profound lessons might they still offer us from their watery graves, waiting for their stories to be fully understood, allowing us to truly piece together the puzzle of humanity's forgotten origins? The submerged stones of Yonaguni, the vast underground cities of Derinkuyu. These sites, stretching back into a time we barely comprehend, force us to confront a profound question. What happened to the people who built them? How could civilizations, capable of such monumental feats, simply disappear from the pages of conventional history? Perhaps the answer lies not in their slow decline, but in a sudden, cataclysmic event, an event so devastating that its echo reverberates through our oldest stories, etched into the very fabric of human memory. For millennia, across every continent, in cultures separated by vast oceans and towering mountain ranges, a remarkably consistent narrative persists. The story of a great deluge, from the epic of Gilgamesh in ancient Mesopotamia to the biblical account of Noah, to the myths of the Maya, the Aboriginal Australians, and the indigenous peoples of North America, countless traditions describe a time when the world was consumed by water, when all but a few survivors perished, clinging to rafts or finding refuge on the highest peaks. This global repetition of the flood myth is one of the most enduring and puzzling anomalies in human folklore. How could so many disparate cultures, often with no apparent historical connection, come to tell such similar tales? Mainstream historical and anthropological theory often suggests that these universal flood myths are either independent cultural developments, perhaps inspired by localized but significant river floods or coastal inundations. Others see them as allegories, moral tales designed to impart wisdom or explain the origin of a new world order after a period of chaos. The vast geographical spread and the lack of a single, verifiable global flood event in the geological record are often cited as evidence against a literal interpretation. It is easy to dismiss these narratives as mere superstition or imaginative storytelling. But there's a problem with this explanation, a nagging inconsistency that challenges the conventional view. The striking similarities often extend far beyond just the concept of a flood. They include specific details, a warning from a divine being, the construction of a vessel to save humanity and animals, the sending of birds to find dry land, and a new beginning for humanity from a small group of survivors. These common threads, woven through narratives from Sumeria to the Andes, from India to Ireland, seem too precise to be mere coincidence or the result of isolated regional events. If each culture developed its flood myth independently, why do so many describe identical elements of catastrophe and survival? Some researchers believe that these legends are not merely symbolic tales, but rather fragmented recollections of a singular, cataclysmic event that reshaped the world and imprinted itself indelibly on the collective consciousness of early humanity. Could it be that long before recorded history, an actual global or near-global deluge occurred, so profound and destructive that its memory was passed down through generations, surviving as oral traditions for thousands of years? What if these stories are not just myths, but echoes of a forgotten prehistory, a memory of a time when the world truly was submerged? The sheer persistence and shared specifics of these narratives compel us to consider whether they are a window into a hidden past, a testament to an ancestral experience of profound devastation. If these flood myths are indeed shadows of a real catastrophe, what kind of civilization could have existed before such an event? This question leads us to some of the most enduring and intriguing legends of history, the tales of lost continents and forgotten civilizations like Atlantis, Lemuria, and Mu. Plato's description of Atlantis, a technologically advanced island empire swallowed by the sea in a single dreadful day and night, has captivated imaginations for centuries. Similar legends speak of Lemuria, a vast landmass in the Pacific, and Mu, a motherland of civilization that sank beneath the waves. These stories paint pictures of utopian societies, highly spiritual and technologically sophisticated, that vanished almost without a trace, leaving only tantalizing hints in ancient texts and oral traditions. Mainstream archaeology and geology generally treat these tales as pure fiction. Plato's Atlantis is often interpreted as a philosophical allegory, a cautionary tale about hubris and the dangers of imperial power, rather than a historical account. The geological concept of continental drift makes the sudden sinking of entire continents like Lemuria or Mu highly improbable within the human timescale. From a conventional perspective, these are fascinating myths, perhaps inspired by smaller-scale volcanic eruptions or tsunamis, but not records of actual lost super-civilizations. The very idea challenges the accepted timeline of human development and technological progress. But there's a problem with this explanation. The persistent, detailed nature of these legends, often spanning thousands of years and numerous cultures, suggests more than mere allegory or local incident. Plato himself insisted his account of Atlantis was based on Egyptian records passed down through Solon. The notion of a sudden, cataclysmic destruction, often linked to geological upheaval and rising waters, mirrors the flood myths we just explored. What if these legends are not mere flights of fancy, but fragmented memories of real places, real civilizations that were indeed lost to an ancient cataclysm? The sheer yearning in humanity for such a golden age, a primordial source of advanced knowledge, feels deeply rooted. Alternative theories propose that these legends are indeed folk memories of highly advanced prehistoric civilizations, potentially the very mother culture that seeded global knowledge. Could these lost lands have been real, perhaps not as entire continents in the modern geological sense, but as vast land bridges or archipelagos that existed during the last ice age when sea levels were significantly lower? As the glaciers melted, these coastal civilizations, with their ports and cities, would have been gradually, or even catastrophically, submerged. The legends then become a record of real places and real people, advanced for their time, who perished in an ancient, water-based cataclysm. Some speculate that remnants of these civilizations might still lie hidden beneath the waves, waiting to be rediscovered, much like the controversial structures of Yonaguni. If these legends whisper of a hidden reality, then could they be tied to a specific, earth-shattering event? Are these just stories, or echoes of a truth far grander and more devastating than we imagine? A truth about a time when the world was almost erased and civilization had to begin anew? Modern science, sometimes inadvertently, offers a compelling candidate for such a cataclysm. Around 12,800 years ago, the Earth experienced a sudden and dramatic reversal of climate known as the Younger Dryas. After thousands of years of gradual warming following the peak of the last ice age, temperatures abruptly plummeted, returning to near glacial conditions within a matter of decades. This rapid cooling persisted for over 1,000 years, causing immense environmental upheaval, the extinction of countless megafauna like woolly mammoths, and a mysterious hiatus in early human technological development. The speed and severity of this climate shift remain a profound enigma in geological history. The mainstream explanation for the Younger Dryas has typically focused on terrestrial causes, a sudden disruption of ocean currents, perhaps caused by a massive influx of freshwater from melting North American ice sheets into the Atlantic. This meltwater pulse could have shut down the ocean's thermohaline circulation, plunging the northern hemisphere back into an ice age. Other theories involve changes in solar activity or volcanic eruptions. While these explanations offer plausible mechanisms for climate change, they struggle to fully account for the extraordinary abruptness and global scale of the Younger Dryas onset. But there's a problem with this explanation, a growing body of evidence that points to a far more violent and sudden trigger. Over the past 2 decades, an increasing number of researchers have uncovered a distinct geological layer dating precisely to the Younger Dryas onset, found across multiple continents. This Younger Dryas boundary layer contains extraordinary anomalies: nanodiamonds, microscopic spheres of melted rock, charcoal spikes, and elevated levels of iridium, platinum, and other rare elements that are common in extraterrestrial objects. This evidence suggests something extraordinary happened to Earth at that exact moment. Alternative theories, collectively known as the Younger Dryas impact theory, propose that a cometary impact or a series of airbursts from a fragmented comet or asteroid struck North America and possibly other parts of the world around 12,800 years ago. Such an event would have unleashed unimaginable energy, causing widespread wildfires, immense floods from rapid ice sheet melting, and injecting vast amounts of dust and soot into the atmosphere. This would have instantly darkened the sky, triggered a cosmic winter, and led directly to the Younger Dryas cooling event. Some even suggest that massive tsunamis hundreds of feet high would have scoured coastal regions, precisely the kind of devastating floods described in ancient myths. This theory offers a powerful explanation not only for the Younger Dryas climate anomaly, but also for the global extinction of megafauna and, potentially, the destruction of any advanced civilization existing at the time. If an extraterrestrial impact reset Earth's climate and perhaps even our developmental trajectory, what traces of that lost world, a world erased by fire and water, might still be hidden beneath the sediment and ice? Could this truly be the cataclysm that gave birth to all the flood myths, the event that swallowed Atlantis and Mu, leaving only shattered fragments of memory behind? The concept that sophisticated civilizations could have existed before the Younger Dryas, a so-called pre-Diluvian civilization, is an idea largely dismissed by conventional archaeology. The prevailing view posits that humanity gradually emerged from hunter-gatherer societies, with complex urban centers and monumental architecture appearing only after the end of the last ice age, around 10,000 to 6,000 years ago, culminating in sites like Sumer and Çatalhöyük. There is, by this account, no widespread evidence of truly advanced culture or global interconnectedness prior to this established timeline. The idea of a lost, highly developed ancient civilization simply doesn't fit the accepted narrative of gradual human progress, but there's a problem with this explanation. A growing body of evidence that challenges the linearity of this established timeline. The sudden appearance of highly sophisticated megalithic sites like Göbekli Tepe, built by what were supposedly simple hunter-gatherers thousands of years before the invention of agriculture, already hints at capabilities far beyond what we expect. The advanced engineering seen in submerged structures like Yonaguni, or the vast subterranean networks of Derinkuyu, speak to a lost knowledge of building and organization. And then there are the profound similarities in mythologies, astronomical knowledge, and even architectural motifs found across vastly separated cultures, which suggest a shared pre-cataclysmic knowledge base. These anomalies refuse to fit neatly into the conventional picture of a slow, steady progression from primitive to complex. Alternative theories propose that the flood myths and lost continent legends are not mere coincidence or allegory, but fragmented recollections of a highly advanced, unified global civilization that existed during the last ice age. This pre-Diluvian civilization possessed sophisticated knowledge of astronomy, engineering, and perhaps even forms of energy and transportation that we are only now beginning to rediscover. This society, perhaps flourishing during a period of stability before the Younger Dryas, was then largely wiped out by the cataclysmic events of the impact theory, which triggered immense floods and climate chaos. A few survivors, scattered across the globe, carried with them the remnants of their knowledge, their traditions, and their stories, disseminating them to nascent, post-cataclysmic societies. These survivors, the bearers of forgotten wisdom, might have been the very people who inspired the first monuments of the New Age, influencing the development of early cultures with their advanced understanding. Could the scattered fragments of myth, geology, and anomalous structures be pieced together to reveal a picture of a world that once was? A world erased by water and time, leaving only whispers in our collective consciousness, a yearning for a golden age lost to the mists of a forgotten past. The evidence, both anecdotal and increasingly scientific, suggests a profound resetting of human history, a cataclysm that wiped the slate clean, yet could not entirely erase the memory of what came before. The echoes of a lost civilization, a world consumed by the deluge, continue to resonate, inviting us to look beyond the accepted timeline and reconsider the very foundations of our history. From the deepest parts of the ocean to the highest mountain plateaus, our journey has peeled back layers of what we thought we knew about the origins of human civilization. We've seen tantalizing glimpses of a past far more complex, far more advanced than conventional history allows. But the echoes of this forgotten era are not confined to isolated pockets or submerged ruins. They are carved in stone on a scale so monumental and with a precision so baffling that they leave an undeniable footprint across our entire planet. Consider for a moment the high plains of Bolivia, specifically the ruins of Pumapunku near the ancient site of Tiahuanaco. Here, scattered across the landscape like the discarded toys of giants, lie thousands of intricately carved stones. What sets Pumapunku apart is not merely the size of these stones, though many weigh tens or even hundreds of tons, but the almost inconceivable precision of their cuts. These are not rough-hewn blocks. They are interlocking pieces, some shaped into complex H patterns, others with perfect right angles, countersunk holes, and T-shaped grooves that suggest a sophisticated system of modular construction. The prevailing mainstream theory attributes Pumapunku to the Tiwanaku culture, dating it to sometime between 500 and 1000 AD. Archaeologists propose that these skilled stonemasons, using rudimentary tools of copper and stone, meticulously shaped these hard andesite and diorite blocks through persistent grinding, sanding and percussion, then moved them over many kilometers using ramps, rollers and collective human effort. The suggestion is that given enough time and manpower, even the most challenging feats of engineering could be achieved with simple technologies. But there is a profound problem with this explanation, a nagging discrepancy that has perplexed engineers and researchers for decades. The precision visible at Pumapunku goes far beyond what is achievable with the proposed tools and methods. The surfaces are often mirror smooth, the angles are perfectly geometrical, and the interlocking joints are so exact that not even a razor blade can be inserted between them. These blocks exhibit cuts that appear to have been made by a machine, including perfectly uniform grooves and perfectly drilled holes that traverse the incredibly hard stone with no visible signs of wear or unevenness, which would be inevitable with hand tools. The materials themselves, especially andesite, are extremely hard, ranking nearly as high as granite, making their shaping an enormous challenge even with modern diamond-tipped tools. The logistical nightmare of moving, shaping, and precisely fitting thousands of such massive, hard stones, some weighing over 130 tons, with only manual labor and simple tools, strains credulity. It feels as though we are looking at something utterly anachronistic, an artifact of an age that should not have possessed such capabilities. Could it be, then, that the Tiwanaku people inherited these structures, or perhaps adapted techniques from a much older, forgotten precursor civilization? Some researchers postulate the existence of lost ancient technologies, perhaps involving sophisticated acoustic levitation or advanced stone-softening chemicals, allowing for effortless manipulation and shaping of stone. Others suggest a high degree of mathematical and geometrical knowledge, possibly handed down from a global network of builders, which enabled the layout and execution of such complex designs. The very design of the H-blocks, resembling modern structural components, has led to theories of a highly organized, almost industrial approach to construction, an approach entirely absent from the known archaeological record of the region for that era. What if the Tiwanaku civilization was merely rediscovering or attempting to repair the remnants of something far grander and far older? If such precision and scale were isolated to one remote Andean plateau, it might be easier to dismiss. But our journey leads us from the high altitudes of Bolivia to the lush Bekaa Valley in modern-day Lebanon to the awe-inspiring ruins of Baalbek. Here, amidst the grandeur of later Roman temples, lie foundations built upon stones that dwarf anything seen at Pumapunku. The most famous example is the Trilithon, a triumvirate of 3 massive blocks each weighing over 800 tons, forming part of the foundation of the Temple of Jupiter. Even more astounding, still lying in the nearby quarry, is the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, or the Stone of the South, an unfinished megalith estimated to weigh over 1,000 tons, and more recently, an even larger stone found beside it, estimated at 1,650 tons. These are among the largest cut stones on Earth. The accepted historical narrative attributes the construction of Baalbek, including its colossal foundations, to the Romans, particularly during the 1st to 3rd centuries AD. It is widely believed that Roman engineers, renowned for their ingenuity, used elaborate systems of ramps, rollers, levers, and a vast number of human and animal labourers to quarry, transport, and lift these stones into place. Their mastery of construction is well documented across their empire, and Baalbek is often cited as a testament to the absolute peak of Roman engineering prowess. However, the sheer scale of the Baalbek stones, particularly those within the Trilithon, presents an enormous challenge to this conventional understanding. Lifting a single 800-ton block, let alone 3 of them, and precisely setting them into a foundation using only Roman-era technology stretches the bounds of known physics and engineering. Modern engineers, even with powerful cranes and machinery, would find such a task incredibly difficult today. Furthermore, observations of the quarry reveal that the methods of extraction and preparation of these enormous blocks seem to predate Roman techniques. There is a palpable difference between the Roman structures above and the megalithic foundation below, suggesting 2 distinct phases of construction, separated by a vast gulf in time and technological capability. Could it be that the Romans, marveling at an already existing monumental platform, simply built their temples upon its ancient, inexplicable base? Alternative theories propose that the monumental stones of Baalbek were placed by a much older, pre-Roman civilization, one possessing a level of technological sophistication that remains enigmatic to us. Some suggest the use of forgotten techniques involving sound waves to reduce the effective weight of the stones, or even some form of ancient anti-gravity technology, allowing these behemoths to be effortlessly maneuvered. Others speak of a global connection, suggesting that the builders of Baalbek were part of the same network, perhaps even the same culture, that left behind other impossibly large stone structures across the world. The idea is that these massive stones were not merely decorative but served a functional purpose, perhaps as part of an energy grid or a global communication system that we no longer understand. If a civilization thousands of years ago had the capability to transport and position stones that challenge even our modern ingenuity, what else were they capable of, and what untold secrets might still be hidden beneath the sands of time? Indeed, Pumapunku and Baalbek are not isolated marvels. They are but 2 prominent examples within a pervasive global pattern of megalithic construction that spans continents and oceans. From the intricately fitted polygonal walls of Cusco and Sacsayhuaman in Peru, to the immense statues of Easter Island, from the mysterious precise cuts in the Valley of the Kings in Egypt, to the ancient vitrified forts of Scotland and the submerged stone structures off Japan, there is a recurring theme of massive stone structures exhibiting astonishing precision and impossible stoneworking techniques. We see drill holes in granite that appear to have been made by advanced machinery, incredibly flat surfaces spanning dozens of meters, and interlocking stonework so perfect that no mortar was ever needed. Across numerous sites, irrespective of culture or geographical separation, similar architectural anomalies emerge: massive, perfectly fitted stones, sometimes weighing hundreds of tons, arranged in complex patterns, often defying the capabilities of the supposed builders and the tools that they are thought to have possessed. Mainstream archaeology generally explains this worldwide phenomenon as independent innovation. It is argued that, given enough time, diverse cultures would eventually develop their own methods for working with stone, perhaps discovering similar solutions to similar engineering challenges. The idea is that human ingenuity, through trial and error, would lead to the development of sophisticated stonemasonry techniques in different parts of the world, evolving gradually over centuries through persistent manual labor and increasing skill. But the pervasive similarity of these impossible techniques and the astounding consistency in their execution across cultures with no apparent contact demands a closer look. How is it that precision polygonal masonry, where irregularly shaped stones fit together like a three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle with microscopic tolerances, appears in ancient Peru and also in Mycenaean Greece or even in structures in Japan? Why do we see evidence of cuts and shaping that seem to require a level of technology far beyond the supposed era, from the deep, narrow grooves in granite at various Egyptian sites to the vitrified fortresses in Europe, where stone appears to have been subjected to intense heat, transforming it into a glass-like substance? These are not minor resemblances. They are recurring technical signatures that suggest a shared underlying knowledge base. The argument of independent evolution struggles to account for the astonishing convergence of such specific, highly advanced, and often over-engineered techniques. The sheer statistical improbability of such widespread and precise similarities arising purely by chance, without any form of knowledge transfer or common origin, is a profound mystery. This leads us to the most intriguing and perhaps most controversial alternative theory, the existence of shared ancient technology theories, and ultimately evidence of a global mother civilization. What if these widespread megalithic marvels are not the product of isolated ingenuity, but rather the legacy of a single, highly advanced precursor culture? This mother civilization, perhaps dating back to the depths of the last ice age, or even earlier before the Younger Dryas impact, could have possessed technologies and knowledge that were subsequently lost to the mists of time and global catastrophe. Theories suggest that this civilization may have left behind its architectural blueprints, its advanced tools, or at the very least, its foundational scientific and engineering principles, to various nascent cultures across the globe. These principles might have then been adopted, adapted, and sometimes imperfectly replicated by later societies who no longer fully understood the original methods or purpose. The consistency in the precision, the scale, the choice of materials, and even the astronomical alignment seen in many of these sites speaks to a unified vision, a common source of understanding. Could it be that the remnants of this advanced global civilization, or perhaps its direct descendants, traveled the world, disseminating their knowledge of stoneworking, mathematics, and cosmic alignments? What if the collective memory of a golden age, a time of unparalleled wisdom and technological prowess, lies encoded within these silent stones? This would not imply extraterrestrial intervention, though some theories lean in that direction, but rather a re-evaluation of human capabilities in our distant past. It asks us to consider that humanity's story is not a linear progression from primitive to advanced, but perhaps a cyclical one, with peaks and valleys of knowledge that have been largely forgotten. If such a civilization indeed existed, providing the impetus and perhaps even the direct techniques for these global megalithic marvels, then the implications are staggering. It would force a complete paradigm shift in our understanding of human history, culture, and technological development. It would suggest a forgotten chapter, a missing link in the human story, a time when the world was connected by a singular, profound intelligence. What secrets might still be locked within these impossible stones, waiting for us to truly comprehend their message? The whispers from the ancient stones, the impossible precision carved into forgotten bedrock, and the echoes of cataclysmic events all converge, challenging the very bedrock of what we thought we knew about human history. We have journeyed through sites that defy our timelines, examined technologies that seem to mock our assumptions of progress, and glimpsed a world far more complex and sophisticated than conventional history allows. Now, as the dust settles on these archaeological enigmas, we are left not just with new questions, but with the profound implication of a complete re-evaluation of our past, demanding a fundamental paradigm shift in how we view the unfolding tapestry of time. The initial shock, for many, is the sheer scale of this necessary re-evaluation. The anomaly here is not a single structure, but the entire historical narrative itself, a vast, intricate edifice built upon decades of scholarship, suddenly showing profound cracks. The mainstream historical understanding suggests a largely linear progression, a slow but steady ascent from primitive hunter-gatherers through the agricultural revolution to the first cities of Sumer, and onwards to the complex civilizations we recognize today. This linear path, it is argued, is largely complete, with archaeologists and historians continually filling in the details, firm in their foundational understanding of humanity's intellectual and technological development. But there's a persistent problem with this established narrative: the cumulative weight of evidence, from the sophisticated astronomical alignments in structures predating known astronomy to the advanced engineering at sites like Pumapunku, or the clear pre-agricultural monumental architecture of Göbekli Tepe, directly contradicts this smooth, unbroken line of progress. These discoveries are not minor anomalies, they are seismic tremors that shake the very foundations of the accepted timeline. The mainstream view, while robust and deeply ingrained, struggles to adequately integrate such radical findings without fundamentally altering its core assumptions. Could it be that what we perceive as human history is but a chapter, or perhaps merely an interlude in a much grander story? Some researchers now theorize that these seemingly impossible sites and artifacts are not nascent experiments, but rather fragments left behind by an earlier, perhaps globally interconnected, civilization that predated the one we currently recognize as the foundation of our world. What if, instead of a singular, continuous climb, human intellectual and technological advancement has followed a more complex, perhaps even cyclical trajectory? The alternative possibilities suggest a series of civilizations rising and falling, with each leaving behind tantalizing clues that hint at their forgotten presence, forcing us to consider that our current era is not the first apex of human ingenuity, but merely the latest. If so, the implications are staggering, requiring us to fundamentally alter our textbooks, our museum exhibits, and perhaps even our collective identity. The idea that our understanding of history is not only incomplete but fundamentally skewed, leaving vast eras entirely blank, prompts a profound question. If the foundational timeline itself is flawed, how much more do we misunderstand about the true journey of humanity, its full potential and its hidden depths? This potential paradigm shift inevitably brings us to the thorny issue of academic consensus. The anomaly here is the inherent inertia within established academic institutions when confronted with evidence that directly contradicts decades, even centuries, of accepted wisdom. Mainstream academia, through its rigorous peer review processes and specialized fields, is designed to be a self-correcting system, gradually integrating new evidence and evolving its theories. This meticulous approach is vital for maintaining scholarly integrity and separating fact from unfounded speculation. But there's a critical challenge inherent in this system: the profound difficulty of re-evaluating deeply entrenched academic consensus, especially when faced with truly revolutionary findings. The sheer institutional investment in existing paradigms, the careers built, the textbooks written, the theories refined, creates an immense resistance to ideas that demand not just minor adjustments, but a complete overhaul. Findings from sites like those we've explored, which suggest advanced capabilities existing in eras designated as primitive, are often initially met with skepticism, dismissed as outliers, or explained away with increasingly convoluted justifications, rather than being allowed to fundamentally reshape the narrative. This cautious approach, while understandable, can sometimes inadvertently slow the integration of groundbreaking insights. Alternative perspectives suggest that this resistance while perhaps unintentional, sometimes leads to a marginalization of researchers whose work fundamentally challenges the status quo. These outsider theorists, often operating beyond the traditional academic framework, are frequently the ones pushing the boundaries, forcing uncomfortable questions that the mainstream is reluctant to address. Could it be that the very structures designed to preserve and transmit knowledge can, at times, become so rigid that they inadvertently hinder the acceptance of the most profound and unsettling truths about our past? What if the collective historical narrative as currently constructed is more a reflection of a specific worldview solidified over time than a truly open-ended exploration of all available data? The very act of questioning established historical timelines and intellectual trajectories highlights a critical point. How long will it truly take for the weight of this extraordinary evidence to fully penetrate the collective academic consciousness, leading to a genuine, open-minded re-evaluation of humanity's ancient past? This brings us to a compelling, yet often overlooked, concept: the cyclical nature of civilizations. The anomaly isn't a single event, but a recurring pattern, woven into the fabric of numerous ancient texts, oral traditions, and even geological records across disparate cultures, a pervasive notion that advanced human societies have risen and fallen many times over vast spans of time, echoing across epochs rather than progressing in a simple, unbroken upward line. The mainstream view of human civilization generally posits a singular, relatively recent origin, typically within the last 10 to 12,000 years, followed by a largely continuous, if sometimes regionally interrupted, upward trajectory of progress and innovation. Occasional collapses, such as that of the Roman Empire, are seen as temporary setbacks eventually overcome as humanity resumes its climb. But there's a persistent thread that weaves through humanity's collective memory, a but moment that challenges this linear assumption. The pervasive global flood myths, the recurring narratives of golden ages followed by catastrophic declines, the sudden appearance of complex technologies in cultures seemingly without prior developmental stages, and the lost knowledge described in mythologies, all of these elements hint at something far more profound than isolated regional events. These shared echoes suggest not merely a setback, but a complete societal reset, a wiping of the slate that forces humanity to begin anew. Could it be that Earth has witnessed not one, but multiple advanced civilizations, each reaching extraordinary heights of knowledge and technology, only to eventually succumb to natural disasters like ice ages, massive floods, or cosmic impacts, or perhaps to internal decay? Some alternative theories propose that these cycles are not merely random occurrences, but are driven by larger, perhaps astronomical forces, or even an inherent pattern in the rise and fall of complex societies. Humanity, in this view, is continually rebuilding, rediscovering, and reinventing what has been lost time and again, leaving only enigmatic fragments for the next generation to ponder. The ruins we see today, from the megalithic wonders to the submerged cities, might not be the beginning of something new, but the ghostly remnants of something immensely old, offering tantalizing glimpses into a grander, repeating pattern of human endeavor. If this cyclical view of history holds true, it compels us to ask, are we too living within one such cycle, perhaps even approaching its zenith before an inevitable decline or catastrophic reset, similar to those hinted at by our forgotten ancestors? The possibility of a prehistory then takes on a more urgent and profound meaning. The anomaly is the very idea that sophisticated human intelligence and the capacity for complex civilization existed not just 10,000 years ago, but potentially tens, even hundreds of thousands of years before the conventionally accepted dawn of history. Mainstream archaeology and anthropology, generally, mark the human story as beginning with the development of agriculture, and then the subsequent rise of cities, firmly placing significant cultural and technological advancement within a relatively narrow time frame. Before this, humanity is largely characterized as primitive hunter-gatherers, focused purely on survival without the leisure or cognitive capacity for grand projects or advanced thought. But there's a clear and unmistakable but in this narrative. The evidence, gleaned from advanced precision masonry, the astronomical knowledge embedded in ancient structures that predate the invention of the telescope, and the sheer scale of global megalithic construction suggests not just survival, but thriving. Sophisticated cultures existing in what we have arbitrarily designated as prehistoric eras. These weren't mere bands of nomads. They were organized societies capable of monumental undertakings, possessing skills that challenge our modern comprehension, and perhaps even understanding principles of physics and engineering that we are only now beginning to grasp. If a profound prehistory exists, it implies not only lost technological knowledge, but perhaps lost philosophical, spiritual, and social structures that were equally advanced. Some researchers speculate that these forgotten ancestors possessed a deeper, more integrated connection to the natural world, or even an understanding of cosmic principles that we, in our modern technological rush, have entirely overlooked or forgotten. What if our current advancement is merely a partial rediscovery, a fragmented and perhaps even diluted echo of a grander, more holistic understanding that once existed? The implications extend beyond engineering, hinting at a forgotten wisdom that might have shaped their societies in ways we can only begin to imagine, perhaps living in greater harmony with their planet, or understanding cycles of time with a clarity we lack. If we truly accept the reality of a profound prehistory, how does it fundamentally change our perception of human potential, not just in the distant past, but for our own future? And the path we choose to take? Ultimately, as we stand at this precipice of historical re-evaluation, we are compelled to seek the lessons from humanity's forgotten past. The anomaly here is the potential for profound wisdom and urgent warnings embedded within the remnants and myths of these lost civilizations, often dismissed by modern rationalism as mere fables or primitive attempts to explain the inexplicable. Mainstream scholarship often interprets ancient myths as largely symbolic, cultural narratives reflecting rudimentary understandings of natural phenomena, social structures, or psychological archetypes. They are seen as cultural artifacts rich in meaning but not necessarily literal historical records. But there's a compelling but that suggests otherwise. Many ancient stories, especially those concerning global cataclysms, the rise and fall of great civilizations, and the intervention of advanced beings or guiding figures, seem to contain too much factual correlation with geological events and architectural anomalies to be purely metaphorical. The precision of astronomical knowledge in ancient traditions, the vivid descriptions of events like the Younger Dryas impact in global flood myths, and the consistent narratives of a world destroyed and then rebuilt, these echoes often align with scientific and archaeological data in ways that are difficult to dismiss as mere coincidence. Alternative interpretations suggest that these stories are not just allegories, but actual historical records transmitted across countless generations, carefully encoded to warn future humanity about the fragility of civilization and the immense power of natural forces. Could these ancient narratives, preserved in stone and story, be advising us on sustainable living, on the dangers of unchecked technological advancement, or even on how to navigate potential future catastrophes, if only we learn to truly listen to their nuanced messages? Perhaps our ancestors, having experienced the rise and fall firsthand, left behind a legacy of caution, a blueprint for survival, or a reminder of the delicate balance between human ambition and the forces of the cosmos. As we gaze upon the silent stones now seen through this new, inquisitive lens, and listen to the ancient echoes of our forgotten ancestors, what urgent message might they be trying to impart to us today, standing as we do at a similar crossroads of challenge and choice? Their world may be lost, but their wisdom, perhaps, is waiting to be found.